champion de la place.
2021 was a very difficult year from a viticultural point of view because we had what we call the seven plague of Egypt, hail, frost, mildew, and finally poultry mildew. And so we had to fight also against the rot just before the harvest because we had rain end of August. And finally, we harvested mid-September under quite well conditions. That's why we have some success in 21. But it was really difficult to get grapes from the beginning because of the frost. In March, we lost already 50% of the crop. And then we lost again 15% due to the mildew, and it was very, very difficult to maintain an organic viticulture to the end. We had to adapt and to fight against the frost, but finally, thanks to our sustainable approach, we succeeded very well. We had a very good result compared to the World Champagne appellation, and the grapes were in good sanitary conditions. And finally, we decided not to make La Grande Année, but to secure special cuvée, means our blending wines. We thought 21 was not good enough at a large scale to produce La Grande Année in 21. We will so secure with the best grapes the blend of special cuvée, made with a majority of Pinot Noir, 60%, and the reserve wine also will complete very well the blend. The specificity of Bollinger is to use more than 50% of reserve wine, and part of them are coming from the famous reserve magnums. The champenois normally used to keep the reserve wine in tanks. We at Bollinger we do it, but also we have another technique to keep the vin de réserve. We keep them in magnum, and you know why? Because the magnum is the best format to keep the wine for a long time. That's why we keep the reserve magnums for almost 10 years before we use them in the blend of special cuvée. Whereas the reserve wine kept in tanks, we keep them no more than 4 years. We think that the magnum is the best format, but also we do a little prise de mousse. When we put the wine into the magnum, we add a little bit of sugar. It's 1/4 of the normal quantity. And after the bottle fermentation, we will have 1/4 of the normal pressure inside. And the wine will be in contact with the lees for 10 years. And through the aging, the wine will benefit from the contact with the yeast, and it will maturate and give a very specific taste in the magnum. We call it the dry fruit, the grilled aromas. It's a very reductive approach, which is really interesting at Bollinger because we are known to be more oxidative thanks to the barrel fermentation. We ferment 20% of special cuvée in barrels, and during this barrel fermentation we have the macro-oxygenation, the fact that oxygen can enter into the wine through the barrels because the wood is porous. So by using those wines from the barrels and also the reserve wine from the magnums, which are more grow into a reductive way with the lees, and because we put a cork on the magnum, and the cork, is a very low permeability to oxygen, so we blend different stages of the fruit, and Bollinger, as a result, in the glass, is really a mix, a blend between some wine coming from the barrel fermentation and also some wines coming from the reserve wine, coming from the tanks, or the reserve wine in magnums. The reserve magnums are really giving the toasty notes, the spicy notes, and are giving to special cuvée different layers of fruit. And we create, through the blending, a very nice complexity, because we have more than 50% of reserve wine in this wine. And so it's very mature, complex, with different layers of fruits, the fresh fruits like the grapefruit, but also the mature fruits like Mirabelle or peach, coming from the barrel fermentation, and finally the dry fruit coming from the reserve magnums. And in addition, in the top of that, we have, after the bottling, 3 years of aging in special cuvée. So through the aging in this bottle, we have another type of fruit, I mean the stewed fruit coming from the aging on lees. So at the end, if I had to summarize the Bollinger experience, I would say the aromatic trip, because to the north, you have all those layers of fruits coming from our vinification and the aging, and finally you enjoy Bollinger through the time. You have to wait. You have to stay to wait for the wine to open in the glass, because it will show a nice complexity, and the wine will embark you in a real aromatic trip through the different layers of fruit. But not only, the nose, the palate is also very different, because we get a nice creamy effervescence due to the contact with the lees, the wine fermented in barrels, and the time, 3 years on lees in the bottle. And finally, the dense and subtle presence due to the Pinot Noir. And the Pinot Noir of Bollinger is mostly coming from Hailly and Verzenay, the two major Grand Cru of Pinot Noir. And Hailly and Verzenay are really the backbone of all the blend we do. They are complementary, and it gives to the wine a nice density and subtlety, because the Pinot Noir of Hailly is known to be very intense, powerful, whereas the Pinot Noir of Verzenay is more elegant. So both, they represent really the yin and the yang of the Pinot Noir at Champagne Bollinger, and that's why we are talking about density and subtlety also on the palate. This wine has a very great presence, and I think it's a key definition for what we do at Bollinger. When we are talking about vin de champagne, the word vin, the wine, is really important, because we believe that to create a great champagne, we need first to create and to build a great wine like an architect through the blending, and then you will have a great champagne after 3 years for special cuvée. Cheers, and see you soon at Champagne Bollinger.